So one of the more recent acquisitions I've had in terms of gear is this shift lens from Laowa. And it has really been a mainstay lens on my gear bag because it's something that is really helpful in my architectural photography. And I enjoy it really well to a point that I sometimes go on photo walks with just this lens and doing shifts and random architectural photos of buildings I see and buildings that I find interesting when I walk around. So on this video, we're going to talk about shift lenses, what are they used for, and how to use them. So this isn't actually going to be a review video. If you want to check out my detailed review, I published it on fstoppers.com when this was first announced. Fortunately, I was able to get a test unit before it was even launched. But eventually I ended up buying one because I liked it so much. So this has been really the mainstay architectural lens that I've been using along with my Sony 12-24. But I want to talk about this because I think that many photographers would benefit in using shift lenses, specifically those who shoot architecture and real estate. So first, what is a shift lens? Or what is shift to begin with? Basically, in terms of photography, shift is basically a movement or a shift in the lens or the actual image towards a certain direction. It may go from up, down, left to right, depending on the configuration of the lens. And this is very useful for different kinds of photography, especially those that require very strict maintenance of perspective, such as architectural photography. It is also very useful in other genres, like for example, landscape photography. If you want to extend the frame, later I will show you how that is done. But basically, the point is either to shift the entire frame or the entire image without having to tilt the body, because that will result in the keystone effect, or basically just the most basic definition of distortion that most people know. And we don't want that when we're shooting architecture because, of course, we want to show the buildings in perspective and we don't want them to be unrealistic or tilted up or down. For landscape photography, it's very usable for panoramas. As I said, you can also use this for panoramas because it extends the angle of view. And other genres use shift lenses, of course, but mainly those with further zoom or longer focal lengths, such as in product photography and macro. So when using shift lenses for architecture or landscape, you can actually do two different kinds of workflows. One is a single image workflow that basically uses just a single exposure with the lens shifted to the direction you want to maintain perspective. As for the other, of course, you can use this as a way to do panoramas, and instead of just turning the camera or the tripod, you're instead going to use the shift to be able to move your frame. So those are two different workflows, but generally the aim is to move the frame, to shift the frame up or down or left and right to create the image that we want and as much as possible maintain perspective. So before I show you how to use the lens, I want to show you the different parts and the different rings and knobs on the lens so that you know what I'll be doing before I demonstrate. So there's a spherical front element and it's protected by this unique lens cap that mounts pretty much like how a lens hood would. And of course, there's no lens hood on this one because that might be part of the frame when you shoot. So it's going to be an obstruction. Now, there are two rings, of course, the focus ring. If I'm not mistaken, most tilt shift or shift lenses are manual focus, including this one, because it's pretty complicated to engineer the autofocus along with the shifting mechanism. So here in front is the focus ring, and here is the aperture ring. It has clicks to give you a better feel of your adjustments. Plus, this ring is what controls the shifting. And so when we rotate that, it goes up or down. Now we have this knob or this lock that actually prevents unwanted movement, unwanted shifting because of gravity. But generally, this lens is actually light enough. I don't find any use for the lock anyway. But it can also add friction to your adjustments. And lastly, this button basically releases it for rotation. So the entire 2/3 actually rotates, because it can also allow you to set the axis of shifting from horizontal to vertical, and that can give you a lot of ways to actually extend your frame. So if earlier it was moving up and down, when we shift it, it can actually move side to side. So if you do a panorama, it's going to result into a much longer panorama. And those are the parts of the shift lens. Very simple, you just really need to get used to and oriented with them. And it's going to be a breeze using these lenses when you're out in the field. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration now. I'm going to go over there to shoot a building nearby, and let's see what I can show you in terms of the images that this can produce. So again, one of the easiest things you can do is shoot a single image with corrected perspectives, especially if what you have there is already enough to cover the entire structure, which is the case for this one. But of course, another thing you can do is shoot from the bottom, shift, and work your way up. And later on, assemble the panorama. Now, another thing you can do is rotate the axis, shoot from left to right, work your way, and assemble later. Now, another thing you can do, of course, is to shoot vertically and again work your way up. And the last option, of course, is shoot from side to side. And there we go. I hope this video gave you a bit of clarity on what a shift lens is and what help it can give you when you're shooting architecture and even other genres generally. And if you have any questions about this lens, you can leave a comment down below. I will also leave the review link below, and you can also share this video if you like it. And of course, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.